Good morning and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on the journey toward publication. I am Jennifer Carl-Tong, and I write Christian historical romance.
Hi, I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I always go last because I write under the pen name Dee Dee Bowman.
Because that's why.
That's not why you go last?
Yeah. Maybe it's because I write historical and nonfiction.
Oh, I think it's because you go last because that's what we decided on, because we kept talking over each other early on because we didn't know whose turn it was to say who they were. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. All of you that are listening live, that are in our chat today. But we also want to thank our listeners that listen on podcasts later on, as well as watch the replay of this. We appreciate every single one of you. For YouTubers, make sure that you like and subscribe to this so you never miss another episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. We also have a newsletter that we want you to also subscribe to. So we would like you to go on over and do that. Are we making the announcement now? That's where it is in the outline.
Well,
I kind of feel like it's a little early.
I know. I don't know. I'm really excited. So maybe we can tease it and say we have a really big announcement today. We should maybe wait too until the chat's a little more, springy. We need to do the online equivalent of hi, everybody. And they say, hi. They say, that was terrible. Try it again.
Oh my gosh.
Don't
every
you hate
church,
that
every
thing?
Sunday. Yes, every church, every Sunday, everywhere. Good morning. I said good morning, and then everyone says it louder the second time.
The worst is when you have a big mouth, so everybody wants you to be that person when you always hate that person. And so to the tent maker, I am a tent maker, so whatever.
All right, so instead, we do want to tell you guys that we have a big announcement at the end of this episode.
Really big.
But right now, we are going to start off with our What's Up. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Rhonda, because Rhonda was feeling last. And I want her to know that you're not last in the heart, Rhonda. So, Rhonda, what is up with you today?
I do not mind bringing up the rear. I'm totally fine with that. But today, I'm babysitting. I'm so excited because it's for my own kid. I mean, she's 24 years old, but she needs her mommy. And so I'm here gladly. Unfortunately, I'm in the dark for you guys today, but I did the best I could. And I'm wearing my fall uniform today. I will probably be seeing this for the next couple weeks because it's practically winter here already. And it's only October 2nd.
It's your pumpkin spice getup.
No. This is my apple cider getup.
Oh, there you go. That's much better.
Mulled cider, yummy.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of pumpkin spice until I bought my own pumpkin spice flavoring. It's a keto flavoring that I use, and now I'm a huge fan. So I just really wasn't the stuff at that big name coffee place. I did not like it.
I was not a fan of pumpkin spice, but then it was trending, and so I decided I'd better get on the bandwagon.
so you don't like it, but you're
not a fan of pumpkin spice.
I like pumpkin everything. So I'll do my What's Up really quick. So it is, as Rhonda hinted at, pretty cold here. It was 37 degrees here earlier. And I will tell you how I know that is because I have two dogs. Little old man Toby decided to go for a walk around the neighborhood. Normally he doesn't, so I just kind of let him out, and I went and did my thing and came back and couldn't find him. And I had to throw on a sweatshirt and go around the neighborhood looking for this dog who was in the neighbor's yard where he shouldn't have been, 2 houses down. So it was really cold. So I came home and put on a long sleeve shirt. So.
Well, at least he didn't get very far. And this is the dog that you all have met on newsletter chat. If you've been in newsletter chat, he's the invader. He wants to come in, especially if it's storming.
Yes, exactly. My doors are old, and the dogs have figured out how to open the doors themselves. I'm not even kidding. It's the craziest thing. So, all right, Tina, how about you? What's What's Up today?
Well, my book is at the proofreaders, and that's kind of boring, but
it's exciting. Are you?
Yes,
kidding?
It is.
I had this profound moment last night, and I was working in my job that pays me, and so basically it was 2 hours of drawing boxes around faces, Like that's all I was doing. So
Wow.
in order to stay awake, I sometimes listen to podcasts, and I listen to some podcasts about adoptees and healing and stuff like that. So this therapist was on this podcast, and she was talking about, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. So she was talking about this book that this lady had written a long time ago about adoption, and she's like a literary writer. It was a nonfiction book, but she was very literary in her writing style. So she talked about like the Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. But one of the things she talked about was going into the ghost world, she called it. And so that's when adoptees go into this fantasy world, and they can, in their fantasy world, it's like a coping mechanism.
Wow.
They can be whoever they want to be. Like, can be the sons of and daughters of kings and princes and all this. And then they make up this fantasy world or worlds as a coping mechanism. And then later she talked about how she uses ecotherapy. So this is where she takes people out into nature, and people will hyper focus on one part of the place where they're at. They'll hyper focus on that. And when they discover what it is they're hyper focusing on, then they can analyze that and see, well, is it this big boulder because it's strong and it's rooted and it's not going to move, kind of thing.
Tina, do you mind if I just connect the dots for people and mention that you're adopted, right? And that's why this is relevant to you.
Yes.
That's okay. Just in case they're a new listener, they might not know.
So I just had this profound moment. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about how I had trouble putting my character's emotion on the page.
Yes.
And I decided to, as a mechanism to do that, because this is what I do, is to have her hyper focus on one part of nature and use that as a mechanism to bring out her emotion. And this lady said it's because nature is so giant and so great and so big that it's able to absorb these emotions and these anxieties and these things that we're feeling that we're not able to, it's too much for us. And the nature's bigger than us, and it can absorb that, and it brings this feeling of peace. So, and I just had this moment of thinking, okay, my adoption story is not just, it's not just shaped who I am as a writer or affected it. I think I'm a writer because of it.
Interesting.
So it was just like a really, like one of those things where you feel like you know yourself a little better.
That's so wonderful. It's so wonderful when another human can describe your experience to you because you feel understood. And that's a very precious feeling, I believe. And I love how you talk about nature being so all-encompassing and helpful, because I always think of these little children's songs or whatever, but, you know, he's got the whole world in his hands. So like, yeah, because God, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a very spiritual way of looking at that to where God's taking care of you, and something bigger than yourself is God at all, you know?
Right. Like, I just feel if I could go somehow in the middle of a raging river, because water is like my thing, and just sit in it without being swept away, that it could just like flow over me and just clean all that junk out. And so I feel like I have been doing ecotherapy without realizing it my whole life.
Well, you went to the lake this summer.
Yeah, and I was in that lake a lot.
Interesting. Well, that's awesome, Tina.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think too that like nature, people always say that when you're in nature, you're closer to God, because I believe that, because you just are surrounding yourself with his creation. Yes, we are each his creation, but we're also flawed individuals, where when you go in nature, I think that like sometimes you just are able to push everything else aside, and it's God. It's all about things that God has created and that he is in and around. And yeah, that's really cool.
And especially when you grow up somewhere where you have like snow-capped mountains on all sides everywhere you look, and you know, just the beauty of natural creation is just there everywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's check our chat really quick. Shell says that she says, I'm writing every day or so.
Good job.
About a third through my short story. I had hoped to be finished by now, so I need to get cracking. It's been in the 90s here in SoCal.
Wow.
So ready for fall.
I know, like I thought I was too, but I forgot what it felt like to be cold.
Jason says, "What's up? Writing has been kind of put on a back burner as I work on homework for classes.
Back to
So
school.
So far, only planned out chapter 1 a little. Also today, getting ready to go to a wedding."
Oh,
Ooh,
weddings
nice.
are fun.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, so you're on.
Okay, well, I in my attempt to be a little more I don't even know what, educated about the rest of the world, I went and looked up some interesting stuff about Nova Scotia. And aside from the fact that the words Nova Scotia fit perfectly into the song lyrics Roller Coaster by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, you're welcome for that earworm, I discovered the following interesting thing about Nova Scotia. What I thought would be fun is I went to like the tourism page because it's like, come see the fun stuff we have here. And the minute I saw this, I'm like, I have to figure out what this place is because I think I want to go to it. There's a place called Meat Cove, M-E-A-T, Meat Cove. I am like, that is fascinating. I must go to this place. So I looked it up, and there is a campground in Meat Cove. Meatcovecampground.com is where I got the following information. Meat Cove is a beautiful fishing village located on the northern tip of Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. Its unusual name is believed to have originated from the area being used as a popular location for hunters to dress animal carcasses during its early history.
Wow.
I know. And I'm sure if I went there, I would get the quintessential fishing village experience. So it's kind of a little bit of a bucket list thing. Now, if Robin pops in and says, I'm nowhere near Meat Cove, well, maybe I would change my one trip to the area to be somewhere else. But that's what I discovered about Nova Scotia. Oh, yeah. Nova Scotia. Ooh, 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 ooh.
What does Nova Scotia mean? Did you find that out?
New Scotland.
That's what I thought. I was just wondering.
Rhonda, you guessed it. I knew that. Everybody knows that.
I did not know that.
I didn't know it either.
I guessed it because Nova kind of sounds like new, and Scotia kind of sounds like Scotland.
Is there a real Scottish influence around there?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder. Ooh. See, yeah, I would love going there, I am sure. Okay, so that's what I've got for you. What's your what's up, Jen?
I did my what's up already.
Oh, yay. So we're done?
I lost out. So we're done. Thanks for joining us on the Christian Grade. No. That's funny because I actually am not in the right part on the outline. So this week, it is time for us to start talking about our real topic today. And this week's topic is the first in a 4-part series that we're going to be doing on writing sprints. So today we're going to talk about why you should sprint. So first of all, before we get started, can anyone quickly define for us exactly what is a sprint? We're not talking about running. We know that. I was doing that this morning with the dog, but
I am not good at quickly, so I will pass.
And you set a timer for whatever time you're going to sprint, and you write during that time until the timer goes off.
Yes,
That's
you just
it.
puke words onto the page for whatever amount of time.
Yep. And my first introduction to sprinting was with NaNoWriMo when we first started doing some NaNoWriMo, like the write-ins, and that's where it all started for me. So, all right, so let's talk about today. We're going to talk specifically about why. You guys, if you've ever watched the show, you know that we sprint. We sprint every episode. We sprint in our daily lives. It's a big part of our building of our careers. But there is more than just the fact that we just do it. We do it because there are reasons why. So today, that's what we're going to talk about is the why. So anyone want to give us one of the reasons why a person should be sprinting?
Well, I'll tell you that you want your brain to glow.
What? Like a glowworm from the 80s when you
Yes.
press on its stomach and its head goes woo.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I found this article a long time ago. I think it was right before we went on our writing retreat where we went up north to Rogers City. And it was in the New York Times, and it was called Researching the Brains of Writers. And so this university in Germany set up this it's called an fMRI machine, so functional MRI. And what it does is it tracks the brain while people are doing things to see which parts of the brain lights up. So on the MRI machine, the part of the brain being used will actually light up on their screen. So that's what I mean by glowing. So what they did basically is they took novice writers and they hooked them up to the MRI machine, and they had them, they studied them from copying someone else's writing to dictating, and then they had them come up with an idea while they were coming up with their idea, and then they did it while they were actually writing whatever they came up with from their idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took experienced authors. There were 25 novice writers and there were 25 experienced authors, and they put them on the MRI machine. So what happened was, when they had the novice writers on the machine, the speech center, the visual center of their brain lit up. It's right here in the front. And this is kind of like if you're seeing a picture in your head and then you're trying to describe it. Mm-hmm. But when the experienced authors got on there,
okay,
a completely different part of their brain lit up.
Okay, so you're saying none of that had not ever lit up before with the novice writer. Then they hook up someone who's been writing for a long time. Is this what you're saying? Okay, all right.
So this part of the brain did not light up on the novice writers.
All right.
It's called the cladding nucleus. The cladding nucleus is the little part of your brain that starts to glow when you are learning to ride a bike and you start to get it. And the better you get at riding your bike, the more your cladding nucleus glows. Eventually, the other parts that light up when you're doing something you don't know how to do go dark, and the cladding nucleus takes over. And when you become, what is that bike race in France? The
Tour de France?
When you come to the level of winning the Tour de France, like your cladding nucleus is basically like blinding anyone who looks at it. So,
yeah, didn't you say that they talked about like professional athletes, like when they're doing jump shots, like it's something that just becomes like, it's just someone who is
muscle memory.
Yeah, it's muscle memory. It's things that like just become, they practiced it so much, it just becomes like they don't even think about what they're doing. They could be carrying on a complete conversation or having their taxes done or they're doing it because they're not thinking that's the part of the brain, right?
Mm-hmm. So and that's why people say it's like riding a bike, because it really is like riding a bike when you've learned to do something and you don't have to think about it anymore, and the cladding nucleus has taken over. So the cladding nucleus was glowing on the experienced authors while they were writing.
And so how do we get our cladding nucleus? I don't have the word in front of me, so I hope I pronounced it right. How do we get ours to glow?
You write, and you write, and you write, and you write, and you write. And the more you do it, the more your cladding nucleus will glow, and it will become like riding a bike. And the longer you do it, the better your writing is going to be. And the less you're going to have to struggle to find words and to figure out what you want to say next and all that stuff. It's just going to flow through your fingertips.
Well, I think each one of us could speak on this personally too. Like, so can you guys each take a minute and talk about what your writing was like before you started sprinting and then how it is now? Has it changed, would you say?
Yes. I'll go first. Hopefully I can say cladding nucleus better than I can say Tour de France. Because I can't just say Tour de France, because I know I'll say it like an American, which then I feel like will embarrass me. So then I try to French it up, but I don't know how to French it up. So Tour de France. I just have to say it that way then, because Tour de France, because trying to say it right is a problem for me. Anyway, cladding nucleus. Well, when I first started doing writing sprints, of course, I, being always wanting to be the teacher's pet, just always wanted to be the person who had the most number of words in the time, right? So I was very much just writing whatever, okay? Like cat pajamas, socks, bullpen, Frank ate a hot dog, words, because that's what they told me. They said, write whatever comes to your head. So I was literally, and then I would say, I have 965 words. And blowing people out of the water because I was not editing at all. And that's how it was. That's how it was. I did not make any effort to change it. I promise. But over time, it became to where I'm doing a beginning, middle, and an end, because now I just kind of know how to do it more. I just been doing it a long time. I don't know how else to explain it. Seriously, whatever comes to my head is now a story instead of hot dog, pajama, Frank, biscuit, donut, pothole. Do you know what I mean?
Right. What about you, Rhonda? How was it when you first started
They make her
sprinting?
sleepy. Sprints make her really
Sorry. And I asked Rhea, you are a little bit in the dark, so I didn't notice at first that you were yawning. So I'm so sorry.
No, that's
Everybody
okay.
else can make us big. Right now, we're like this big on our screens for each other. So sorry.
Okay, so I didn't sprint until Nano either. So that was my first experience. So I was kind of the same as Jamie, where they just want me to keep writing words down for 20 minutes. Okay, I guess I can do that. And anyway, so I didn't see how it would help me, but I'm glad I stuck with it, because the second sprint, I started writing sentences. And, then I started coming up with a story idea. So it took me a minute to understand why sprinting would be helpful if I'm just spewing words. But it is the best thing that has kept me writing all these years.
All right.
And I'll tell you that my writing, you asked what my writing was like before that. Well, it was very spotty, because if I didn't have 4 hours to sit down in front of my computer and, write 3 or 4 great chapters, then I didn't have time to write for that day.
Right.
But it completely changed my mindset. 20 minutes, 15 minutes. If that's all I do in one day, I've written for the day, and I can check that box.
And you're getting your brain glowing because it's a practice thing, right?
Yep.
So,
Right.
yes.
So Jason Marsh says it's so hard to sprint and not edit. Well,
It
why,
is.
Jason? Who's going to read it, Jason? You're kidding me, right? You think you're going to pass that around? You think your mom even wants to read it, Jason? Come on. If you're sprinting every day for 20 minutes, I'm not even being mean. These sprints are meant to be, I am writing every day to get my brain glowing. I am not writing to win a Pulitzer Prize. I am not writing to, impress anybody. I'm writing the same way you go and practice a karate form. You're going to practice piano differently than you're going to do piano at a recital, correct?
Yes.
So this is your piano practice. This is your karate practice. This is your shooting layup after layup. When you go to play basketball, it's not all layups, is it? But you go and you practice the layup at home. Why? So when you're on the court, you know how to do a layup. So your sprints are just meant to train your brain to write. Write without editing is the whole point. You can throw this away when you're finished. No one ever has to see it.
Yeah, and I think that it helped for me that the first time I was exposed to sprinting was at a NaNoWriMo event, and then again at our writing retreat, because there were people around me and there was that little bit of competition, and everyone's just typing away, and you can tell no one's stopping and editing. So you just kind of do it. So you just got to set a timer like we tell you to do every Friday, but do this every day. Set a timer, and then don't be distracted. If your phone goes off, it'll wait 15 minutes. Like everything can wait 15 minutes, and just do it. And I remember back when I first started doing this, I only did it because everyone else was, right? I thought this is not going to be good. And as I'm writing it, I'm thinking this is total garbage. And then we do a sprint, and then you take a break in your social. And we do a sprint, and then you take a break in your social. And so it wasn't until later that day, that first week that I went, that I came home and I looked at it, I'm thinking this is going to be total garbage. And I read through them. I'm like, these aren't that bad. And the more I do it, the more I'm like, these are actually really good. Because again, it's that part of your brain that starts glowing and it takes over. And all of a sudden you're writing, you find that I write some of my best stuff in a sprint, not when I've had time to think about it, not when I'm like, I still have my outline. I'm still a planner. But when I sit down to write, sometimes my brain takes over and what comes out is so much better than what I thought I was going to write. So it is really, really good. And Jason also says, I'm a perfectionist and it bothers me. Jason, so am I. I'm telling you, I am a perfectionist, and this will be the best thing you ever do, because it's like a game. Play it like it's a game and pretend like whatever you're writing, you're never going to use it. Just do that for us. And if the more you do it, there are some things I write, a lot of things I don't even use, but I get my brain glowing.
Oh, yeah. A game is a great way to look at it. You're building up XP, dude. You are building up that XP. How you got to grind. You got to grind.
And
right?
if you get the real red squigglies, it's bonus points.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So much of the stuff that I sprint, I don't use, but it gets me going. And then once I'm done with a sprint, sometimes I'm not saying I sprint all the time, because sometimes I'll sprint and I'll stop and I'll sprint and I'll stop. And then all of a sudden I get going in a chapter and I'm not sprinting anymore. I'm actually writing this chapter. But if I hadn't sprinted and got my brain glowing, I wouldn't be writing what I'm writing. So just give it a try. And if it means that you have to like get on in an online writing group, or because I'm kind of social distancing now, I don't know how you can meet with people. People do meet somewhere like at a restaurant that you can social distance and be writing, so that you have that like kind of accountability to make sure you're sprinting and stopping when you're supposed to. Then do that. But it's so worth it.
Maybe now that we've got everybody all jazzed up as to why they should sprint, maybe we should do our little announcement.
I haven't told you about what sprinting did for me yet.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. I was just going to say that when the sprinting, how it changed over time was it just flowed better. And where it was choppy and sometimes awkward and the story maybe didn't make sense, it started to get the quality of the writing just improved and improved and improved. And now I just don't use it as a tool to keep my brain going. But if I'm stuck on a scene in a book, I'll sprint it.
Yes.
Because I can't overthink it. Because usually that's why I'm struggling. I'm trying to overthink it and it's coming out dry and not flowy like I want it to be. And if I sprint it, that flow starts to happen and I can get past whatever it is I'm struggling with.
Absolutely, because like Jennifer always says, you can't edit a blank page. And then there's that famous quote that says the best books are edited, not written. Yeah. How can you edit something you haven't written? So you've got to get the garbage onto the paper so you can clean it all up and make it pretty.
We did a whole episode on writer's block, and this is one of the things we talked about, is that sprinting will absolutely destroy your writer's block. And if you try sprinting and it's still not helping, sprint something other than what you're writing. Sprint something completely random. Yeah, completely random. Like find a book with writing prompts in it.
Where would you find such a book?
Oh, if only we knew of a resource full of prompts for writing sprints.
That would get you making a habit. Yeah, if you like form a habit because you write every day.
Yes. It's time for our big announcement. We are so excited. We have been working on this for a very long time, and we're so happy and so excited to finally announce that the ladies at the Christian Indie Writers Podcast have written a book. Yay. And that book is about sprinting. It'll help you develop great writing habits because it'll be daily writing for you. It is going to include not only our own experiences with sprinting and why you should sprint, how you should sprint, where you should sprint, things doing beyond sprinting. All of this is in this great book, as well as prompts to get you going. So we are ready and looking for advanced readers. If you are interested in being an advanced reader for us for this book and receive a free digital copy of it, you need to join our email list. So go on over to christianindywriters.net and sign up to be in our newsletter. And that's where we're going to be sharing all the information about our new book. So excited about this.
And if you're not on our newsletter subscription list, you've been missing out anyway, because we always let you know what's coming up on the podcast. And we've got great tips and tricks for you in those newsletters.
Shell says, sweet. That's exciting, ladies. I'm in. Awesome. Yay! Great, Shell. Appreciate that. Yeah, and we have other freebies too. Jason says he's in as well. We have other freebies too that you get when you sign up for our newsletter. You get my my romance cheat sheet for plotting on a romance. We have the critique cheat sheet, which I've never been able to say properly. We've got a bunch of things in there that you will get as well. But for sure, go on over to christianindywriters.net and subscribe to our newsletter. And we will be contacting you very shortly with information on how to get onto our ARC team.
Yeah, the information of how to do that is coming through the newsletter, right, Jen? That's why they've got to be subscribed.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further? I've got a couple more things that we kind of touched on it, but I found that not only has my quality of my writing gone up, but the amount of writing that I do has gone up. Has anyone else had that experience with sprinting?
Yes. Like I'm thinking my story is kind of over and I'm guessing how many words I got. And I glanced down at the timer. I'm like, whoa, I still have 7 minutes or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I feel like it primes the pump.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because I used to think before sprinting, I thought, well, if I don't know what I'm going to write, I probably am going to waste a lot of time erasing and all that. Well, sprinting has completely changed my mindset about that.
I
You know?
can notice with your writing, Rhonda, when you first started off and we were doing sprintings, you would get about 150. You've probably doubled your word count.
Doubled for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
At least.
Doubled it.
Yeah.
And so I found that I've probably doubled mine too. But I've also found, like what Jamie said, like today, I didn't use all the time. My story was done. It was exactly what I wanted. And I was, which is good because I was out of coffee and I needed some more before the podcast started. And we got started a little bit late. So yeah, I found that I put out more. It also helps me figure out like things that I didn't even know that my story had in it. All of a sudden something happens in a sprint and I'm like, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So do you think
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fun. And for me, that's my favorite thing about sprinting is like it's fun. I mean, well, I'm gonna go right. Instead, let's have a contest. I mean, doesn't that just make everything better let's make things a little more interesting? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I just really like that. And reading our sprints out loud on the podcast is the favorite of many people who watch our show. So so sometimes the sprints can be highly entertaining and you do want to share them,
they're fun?
Yeah. And Jen, didn't you say that your first, your reader magnet, isn't that produced by Sprint?
It was from a writing prompt that we had in that came from a writing prompt, but I sprinted a lot of it. Like if it wasn't for sprinting, my books would not be done. I'm not even kidding. Like so much of my books came from sprinting. And then again, like sprinting, stop. And then all of a sudden I'm writing like a whole chapter because the brain was glowing and it just worked out great. So yeah.
My book, One Quiet Afternoon, was a sprint on this podcast, actually, that got then developed later and published.
So many of mine, yeah. And when you get our new book, you're going to see comments from all of us about why we included certain sprints, what we get out of them, like what is developing into something larger. And so, yeah, I think you guys are really going to love this book.
Oh yeah, we kept the typos in there too, so you guys can see that we're not perfect. We don't like type up perfectly. Like sometimes we're reading and we'll edit in our head while we're reading to you guys, but in this book we're very raw. You'll see the typos just like we made them.
Yes, because the book will have places for you to write and it's going to be your raw writing. So it didn't feel genuine to us for us to put in edited work when we expect you to not edit your work in this book. This is just to get you writing. So
very excited. 90 days makes a habit, guys. That's why we did 90 prompts.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, now speaking of prompts, I think it's time for us to move on to the feeding of the backs. Yay! I'm so excited this week. So this is a time of, if you're a listener, you know this already, but we do feedback time every week. And this is how it works. Here on the podcast, we submit our raw, unedited pieces that we share. So we're not looking for critiques. We only give positive feedback because it helps us develop a safe community for receiving criticism, because each one of us takes our turn being like completely exposed and completely vulnerable to each other, which I think is so important in a writing group. If you're part of a writing group where you just feel like it's just you're not connected, you guys should try doing some writing sprints and sharing the raw stuff, because that's really where you build your community. And then you feel like you can share your edited stuff as well.
Yes,
so,
and there's something about seeing how everybody treats the same prompt.
Yes.
That's fun, but also can help you to know your fellow writers and your writing group.
Yes. And if you're the person who's in the writing group because we sent you, you are hereby designated to make everybody be nice by me. I have hereby knighted you as the reminder, only positive feedback about these sprints. Okay. Even if you think that makes you the mean person, I'm telling you, the person who doesn't talk a lot is happy that you're speaking up, because what happens is critical spirit takes over when this kind of thing goes on. Someone offers just something a little negative, and then and the next thing you know, all bets are off. So just, I am hereby saying, you be the one to make sure everybody keeps it positive only in your writing group.
There's still a guy out there looking for the third sister in my story that doesn't have a third sister.
He was so insistent.
So mad. All right. I want Tina to go first today because I just decided that.
You've got the power, Jen.
Okay.
Any.
I don't know if my brain was glowing quite bright enough this morning, but here we go. That man is a nut, thought Chrissy, as she put the bread he'd purchased in the top of his paper bag. She smiled sweetly as she told him to have a nice day, but he ignored her, mumbling to himself and staring at the floor as he shuffled toward the exit. No, I mean it. He really is a nut, she said aloud. Who's a nut? Asked the girl at the next register. Chrissy hadn't meant to say the words out loud. She laughed and shrugged her shoulders in order to hide the embarrassment she felt. Oh, you know, men in general. Well, the girl replied, then began to analyze the truth of whether men were in fact nuts, eventually concluding that it was quite thoughtless of Chrissy to paint all men with the same brush. Chrissy sighed, turning her back to the girl under the pretense of spritzing and wiping the coronavirus guard and glass parts of the register. This day is never going to end, she thought. Already her lower back was beginning to ache and her feet were screaming at her. The customers were mostly grumpy, and the manager in charge of the cashiers had gone to lunch a long time ago, it seemed. What if she just didn't come back? A little boy came to her register. His hair hung in dirty strings around a grubby face. His fingers were almost black and needed a thorough washing, and his clothes were in a similar state. The smell of cat urine wafted toward her, and she stepped back a little in a vain attempt to avoid it. He put an individual-sized bottle of whole milk on the belt and smiled up at her, though his eyes spoke of sadness and worry. $1.25, she told him as she put his milk in a bag. The boy began to count out coins onto the little check-writing table. He was 25 cents short. Tears welled up in his eyes, and one ran down his cheek, leaving a clean streak in its wake. It's all I got, he said, and began to put all the money back in his pocket, obviously preparing to walk away without his milk. Chrissy pulled a quarter from her pocket and set it on the little table. I got you, she said. Go ahead and take your milk. The little boy beamed at her. Oh, thank you, he said. It's not my milk. It's for the baby. Mama ran out of formula. I searched and searched until I found all the pop cans that I needed to buy some milk. Chrissy's mood suddenly shifted. Would that be another jewel in her crown? Regardless, she was glad she had a moment of denial of her pessimism.
Wow. That was really good.
I'm verklempt.
Yeah.
You have to say that with a New York accent.
I can't. It's like saying Tour de France, Tina.
I'm not even going to try because I can't.
Tina,
But
somebody,
I am that. I am the English version of that.
Tina,
Speechless.
somebody who struggles to put emotion in her writing just nailed emotion
For
in
sure.
her writing.
Thanks.
I've
been working on it.
Well, I also think that like breakthroughs, like I think that the more you write, again, your brain is growing and you're working on it. And it's like, I see the breakthroughs. Jason says,
Aw, tear emoji. That's so sweet. Aw.
Shell says, also good, started funny and ended so sweet. Very true. And then Jason had said, this is the part I really like, is seeing how different each of your sprints are in shell
Us
grease. Like, yes, it
too,
amazes
yeah.
me how different all your pieces are every week. Yeah, it amazes me too. And I do, we're here doing it. So
Yep.
I'm going to go
Tina,
next. Oh, no, go
Tina,
ahead. I'm sorry.
Tina, I kept waiting for her to pull the quarter out of her Aldi cart.
Yeah,
You're doing-
Aldi, for
Oh,
sure.
her little Aldi's like, yeah, I should have done that. But I was sprinting. I didn't think about it.
Personally,
Yeah.
Tina, you did a great job of just enough detail. She had an achy
Yes.
lower back and sore feet.
Yep.
I was this girl. I've been her. I've worked that shift. Like,
Yep.
that's all you needed. Excellent description in this.
I was
piece.
channeling my days as a Walmart cashier.
Oh,
Good job. Perfect.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Okay, I'm going to go next. Mine is not emotional like that, so I feel bad following Tina, but all right, here it is. Again, so different, right? We all write so differently. What kind of thoughtless nut leaves their jewels lying around in order for others to analyze them?
Way to get those
Me.
words in there, Jen. Sorry.
I did not interrupt your. I'm not. Or maybe I will.
She hasn't gone yet. There's still
Sorry, go
time.
ahead. You can start over. I'm sorry.
I am going to start over. What kind of thoughtless nut leaves their jewels lying around in order for others to analyze them? Nancy looked up from her laptop. What? Nothing, Sarah said, shrugging. I was just trying to get this writing prompt out of the way by stuffing all the prompt words into the first sentence.
Oh, I blew it, but That's awesome. Go
No,
ahead.
it's fine. Yikes. Doesn't that kind of back you into a corner? I mean, now you have to figure out what it means to analyze jewelry and why someone would have to do that.
True.
Because they were left lying around, obviously. Nancy lifted her eyebrows. And why is that? I don't know. I haven't written it yet. I think you are the nut, Nancy said. Why? Because only a nut would stuff all the prompt words into one sentence. That's not how you're supposed to use prompts. Sarah shrugged. You do you, I'll do me. She repositioned her laptop on her lap and began typing away. Nancy shook her head and turned her attention to her own computer. She looked once more at the 5 words listed in the sprint prompt. She smiled and began typing her own sprint. The woman analyzed the nut, rolling it around in her palm like a glittering jewel, thoughtless to the order she had been given not to eat it. The end.
Yay!
That's
Jennifer?
hilarious.
Yes.
Next time, would you get your coffee before the sprint?
Why?
It might help. I don't know. No,
Was that
was great.
bad?
I loved it. No, I thought it was
Oh.
funny. I thought it was funny that you started over at the end. It's great.
No, it's the other girl. The girl that was criticizing the first one for stuffing all the words in one sentence did the same thing, but it's a different sentence. Like I seriously the whole time writing, I'm like, this is what we're gonna be talking about today. The fact that like we write different and it comes out totally different, and the whole I don't know, I haven't discovered it yet. All this as I'm writing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally not even me
That
writing
came out
this.
so great, and it was framing like what we talked about in last week's episode or the week before that. Whenever we were talking about framing,
Shell
you
just said
started-
that at the same time you did. She's like framing. LOL.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that we pointed out when we catch it, right? Because it'll make us
Right.
all better writers. So I really appreciated that. And how funny that she like accused her friend of being a turkey and then did the same thing. Because what's hilarious is I did not do that, but I'm guilty of doing it. So if I would have done it in my piece, that would have been the best. You know what I mean?
Can I just point out too that my cashier was calling that guy a nut for talking to himself, and then she was talking to herself. Like, I don't know if anybody picked up on that or not.
No, I didn't, but that's hilarious. Yeah. But I can't help it. When I sat down and it was go, the only thing that popped in my head was all the words in one sentence. And I wrote it and I'm like, I'm just gonna write this and then I'm gonna write a different sprint, but I'm just gonna share with the ladies what I did. And then that's what came out. And I'm like, well, I guess that's what I was supposed to do. So.
It's great. It works.
I loved it.
All right, Rhonda, I want to hear what you wrote today. So you're next.
Okay.
That laugh.
Hold on. Before we go, is Tina drinking out of a coffee stirrer or is it my imagination? I just have to know. Inquiring
It's a
minds.
straw.
Oh, okay.
It
It looked
came
very
in-
tiny.
It came in like a Christmas jar, so it's painted like a candy cane.
Oh.
But
It just
this
looked funny. She was sipping through an impossibly
This is
tiny
a
straw.
logoed cup from where my husband works, so I'm trying to make sure that I don't show that. So I've turned the little opening to where the logo is and put a straw in it, so it wouldn't.
I'm trying to not to show mine because it says hot stuff, but I'm drinking iced out of it. So I don't want anyone to know how dumb I am.
I don't want anyone to know I am dishonest with my beverage.
Right?
All right. So, Rhonda, did you write about dishonest beverage choices?
You'll
Just
find
real
out.
quick- Real quick, I just want to point out that Tina was the first person to introduce any sort of Christmas decoration into the podcast this year, not me. You may now proceed.
I win.
Oh, my word. Okay. I'm going to get started before we start talking about Christmas. Okay. This thoughtless nutcase knocked over my whole tray of jewels. The red-faced woman sputtered. Her long, bony fingers stretched toward my chest like a rapier.
Ooh.
I'm so sorry. I tried to calm the woman while searching for an escape at the same time. I'll fix it. I fell to my knees and began scraping the little sparkly dots into a pile. Unfortunately, along with the jewels came dust bunnies and other detritus, which made the jewels look like garbage. Stop, don't bother. You're making it worse, she wailed. You thoughtless kid. This is exactly why I don't allow anyone in my studio. Kid? She wasn't trying to flatter me by calling me a kid. Once again, humiliation was her default setting. I clamped my jaw shut so I wouldn't try to defend myself. She is the one who asked me to write an article about her. She is the one who has her tiny beads and things precariously perched on every teetering pile of whatever's in this room. She is the one who has monopolized the whole hour of our allotted interview time. I turned back to her, ready to lay into her before telling her I quit. Her story isn't worth all of this trouble. But when I looked at the woman before me, that all changed.
What?
Ah!
What?
Three, two,
Why?
one.
Because you were ready to
Jamie,
tell her off.
Jamie,
What?
You're the one with the timer, Jamie. I don't know.
At the risk of giving you unpositive feedback, these are the moments when you ignore the timer and you keep writing a couple sentences.
Oh, that would be cheating.
Rhonda, though,
all the
I
time.
love it. I love it, Rhonda, because this is exactly how I work. I get really, really mad at somebody, and then I remember their wounds.
Yes.
And then I go, why am I mad? Why am I mad? And so I just wanted that moment because you want to know how to get there faster if you can. So you hope someone has the secret. And that's why everybody was hanging on the edge of their seat, because you want to get there as quick as you can.
Mhm.
Awesome story. Loved it.
Yes, loved it. The fact that we reacted that way tells you everything you need to know
Yeah.
about this. And like you couldn't see because you're reading, but Jamie and I are like, the girl's actually like, this is the woman that like love it. Like her sass, like I know her, like I could feel her, I could see her. Like this, you're always so good with characters. So
And I love
Yeah.
humiliation as her default. I just like, I'm going to try not to put that in every character description that I write of a mean person. Like, yes, I mean, some people is like, can you ever please them? No, it's irritating. Ugh, love
well
that.
done.
Way to say
Thank you
something
very
in
much,
just a
lady.
few words. Yay!
Well, I had the unfortunate spot of having to follow Tina. Now you have Jamie had the unfortunate spot of having to follow Rhonda.
All right. Well,
Right,
here
real
goes
quick
nothing.
though,
But,
Shell
yes.
said good stuff, Rhonda, way to draw us in.
Thank
Jason says,
you.
what? I really wanted more. So good bringing the readers in. Yep. So
Oh, Jennifer, did you like my first sentence?
I did.
I thought for sure you were going to get them all in there.
I know. Me too.
You weren't as good as me. Sorry. But
Yeah,
that was
But
awesome.
it worked.
someday.
So, oh my word, if I'm your goal, we got to talk.
Well, I'll say that here's what happens to me. I only have 2 words in the story that were from the prompt because that's how long I remembered that we had a prompt.
Which is good too. I mean, I think
Because
that's
your
good
brain
for
was
listeners.
flowing.
Yes, I think that's good for listeners to hear too. Like, yes, it's fun to follow the rules for the prompt, but then sometimes, like, you just got to write what you got to write. So,
Right, because the prompt is to get you going. Like the whole point of the prompt is like the first push of it's kind of like if you have an electric on your bike or the starter on a mower, like it just gives you a jump and then you can keep going, right?
Yep.
Okay, so here's what I came up with. It was thoughtless of me to make a nut roll for the gift exchange. I knew about the allergies and dietary restrictions. Somehow I couldn't bring myself to care as I dug in the pantry for last Halloween's stale marshmallows and cobbled together enough powdered sugar from the remnants of 4 opened bags. I looked at those ripped empty sleeves, one of them apparently ripped open by my teeth in a moment of frustration. Will those kids ever learn to put the scissors back? And marveled at how much powdered sugar I managed to go through in spite of my resistance to do anything remotely considered domestic. That's the allergy I have, I mutter to myself. I'm allergic to homemaking. Mom, I just got a text from Jenny. My teenage daughter enters the room as though a fleet of trumpeters had just minutes ago announced her arrival. I love her confidence and admire the work she's done on her posture, but I make a mental note to order that parenting CD I've had sitting in my Amazon cart for the past 2 weeks. She is bringing Craig to the party. Can you believe it? After the way he treated you, what kind of friend is that? I know, right? Her anger is as flimsy as the top she is wearing, and it disintegrates like gelatin in warm water when she sees my mixing bowl on the counter. What are you making? She has that certain look on her face, so I preemptively correct her. Keep your hands out of that bowl, young lady. She frowns, then picks the bowl up and sniffs. Smells good. It ought to. I used that expensive vanilla your dad's boss brought us from Puerto Rico. What is it? Or are you somehow punishing me by withholding that information? Don't you want to be surprised? Absolutely not. You know how I feel about those things. I need to know there's going to be something at least remotely palatable before I go so I can eat in advance if I have to. How does that work? I shake my head. I spent an arm and a leg on all these ingredients. Mom, you literally scrounged this stuff from the back of the cupboard. And this is what is supposed to feed you tonight. It's not still more food from my vastly depleting reserves. Okay, so I guess I'm hitting Burger King beforehand, unless you think you can fill up on a heaping helping of nut roll. No, I'll see you later. And that's all.
I cannot. I wish I could be there when Riley hears this. When both your daughters are listening, going, "We don't sound like that."
Yeah, they will be fighting over who this is supposed to be. I will tell you. They'll say, "Well, this part sounds like you." Well, this part sounds like you. This is like my scarecrow daughter. Yes, this is my scarecrow daughter, which is like everything I've ever seen anyone's daughter ever do is this daughter.
Can I just interject and say I put a scarecrow on my front porch? And the thing scares the crap out of me every single night.
Well, you got your money's worth then, didn't you?
I walk by the front door and it's dark outside and there's somebody on my porch.
You might want to take it down before you have all those people come over for your church thing. They're going to be terrified. You traumatize
It's a
them.
friendly scarecrow. She has an apron and a straw hat and a smile on her face. It's not scary at all. A silhouette in the dark.
Oh, Tina, you just made me gag on my coffee.
Oh,
That was
so
so funny. Shell says the scissors. Yes, that was the part I was just like, yes. So true. Great dialogue. And then Jason says, LOL, her attitude is so funny. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Which
like
one? Both of them.
right.
Yeah.
I related so much with this story. Like seriously, the 5 open bags of
I got them all stuffed into one Ziploc. I didn't even dump them out. I just put the almost empty bag.
like if I could find them all at one time, then I would probably do that. But then
Why
I
are
can't
they
find.
not? Yeah, like see, baking recipes are just so not fair. That's why I like cooking. Like in cooking, you could just use all of the powdered sugar for your recipe and just dial up or dial down for the flavor, But baking, you gotta measure it. So they don't sell the powdered
experiment.
Yeah, but they don't sell the powdered sugar in like 1 cupful increments. They sell it in like 2/3 and 1/8 cup, whatever. And then you've got this little bit left over at the end of the recipe. And you're like, now, if I was just cooking, I could just throw that in there. But no, you'll ruin the whole thing. Whatever.
That's very true.
Can you tell I prefer to cook over baking? Because I like to pants, baby. I'm a pantser.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny.
Oh, our next book, cookbook. Pantsing.
Why don't we try doing a couple of cooking videos and see how that goes before we decide to try to do it?
If you title it "Pantsing in the Kitchen," people are going to think it's a different kind of book. That's not a good title.
Oh my gosh, good stuff. I have one last comment to make about the scarecrow. When I was still teaching, we had to do, floats for the different classes, and we had to do like a military one. And so we had created like this dummy. We put my husband's Marines uniform on it. So it was on, anyway, when we were done, my husband brought it home and it was in the garage, but he used to bring it into the house every so often, not tell anybody, and just hide it in places. So that you would just like, especially my poor stepsons who were like 10 and 9, something like that. And he would stick it like in the bathroom. So when they came around the corner and turned the light on in the bathroom, it was right there in their face. And yeah, so you think you're a scarecrow. You should just take the scarecrow and start putting it around the house at night.
I used to do that with one of those elves when my kids were small. My one son knocked the head off and it went flying down the hallway. And I just put it back on. So now it's even funnier.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Good stuff. Today was fun.
Yeah, shenanigans abound today.
Always. All right, ladies. Now that's the time for our we start every episode with our what's up and we end every episode with our what's next. And
it's framing.
It's framing. I don't know why I had trouble saying that today, but I did. Too busy laughing. So our what's next. I'm going to start with, let's go with you, Jamie. What is next for you this coming week?
am so excited about my novel. I told Jennifer, like, I have a crush on my novel. I'm having so much fun with this novel. I'm so excited about it. I cannot wait to get it to everybody. So with that, I need to find out who you are that wants the novel. This is how I'm explaining marketing to myself, you see. So I am going to put together a free sample for people, and it's going to come through my newsletter. So I'm going to have my own newsletter and stuff like that. But like right now, you can't do anything. I don't have it ready, but I'm going to be promoting it coming up here, probably by the next podcast, to tell you how you can get on there. Because what I'm going to do, since my novel isn't ready, I'm going to give you guys some free short stories that I have written and prepared for publication. They will be for sale on Amazon.com, but you will get them for free, F-R-E-E, free. I'm going to be publishing them one at a time, and you will get the whole set if you sign up for my newsletter in the beginning. If you wait, you won't get some of them for free. So the details are coming next week, but I just want to let you all know. And I've also figured out a quick way to talk about my book. You want to hear it?
Yes, always.
My book, Analog, is The Hunger Game Meets the Jetsons.
Oh wow.
What? That's awesome. All right, cool. Very excited. Looking forward to that.
All right.
Calculating.
Barbara
Recalculating.
Yeah.
Barbara says, Rhonda, remind me to tell you about your dad and the dolls regarding the scarecrow.
That sounds scary.
The dolls, like the dolls that we have pictures with on our way back from Rogers
We
City?
have to talk about it. Where are those dolls? They're scary. They're creepy.
Shell says, my what's next? It says, tomorrow I get to go on a virtual writer's conference all day.
Oh.
Looking forward to that, and got to finish my short story this week. Gonna set a timer every day and sprint it out.
Good for
That's
you.
right,
Good for
Shell.
you, yeah.
That's our girl. My what's next is I am, Rhonda and I are working on this, like the details of this book. And so I'm going to be doing some graphics so I did a bunch of graphics for her because I was convinced that they should look a certain way. And then last night we figured out that I had it backwards, and I'm not even upset. Like, I don't care that I'm redoing them all over again, because now we know for sure that it'll be right. And I'm very excited about that. I have some other graphic things to do, and I'm still editing the book. I know that's, you guys are tired of hearing that, but it's still happening. I'm still editing. I was supposed to get like my own kind of little mini writer's retreat. My parents are going to take my girls for a couple days, but they're sick. My girls we all got the sniffles and head colds going on here in this house. So that is on hold for now, but I'm looking forward to doing that soon. Like, just really getting a break to where I do nothing but writing. So that will be coming, or editing, I guess I should say. So that's my what's next. What about you, Tina? What's your what's next?
Well, like I said at the beginning, my book is out at the proofreader. The digital book is at I have two proofreaders. It's a long story, but one person's proofreading the digital book and one's proofreading the physical paperback.
Oh.
So I think that paperback is coming today.
Are you going to do an unboxing?
I might.
Ooh.
Because I don't know what Amazon what is it called? Amazon, like the package is coming from Amazon, but it says merchant delivery.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. So maybe it's that, and maybe it's not. I don't know.
I think your book was probably printed in Illinois because of where we are.
Oh.
And that's what that is, I think.
So it does take longer than Amazon Prime for sure, but it shouldn't be too long.
The thing is, I didn't order it from Amazon.
Isn't it strange
then.
Isn't it strange that with the number of self-published authors there are out there, you never meet anybody who's like, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I print out all those billions of books that people are writing. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, whose job is that? Isn't that an interesting job to have, you would think?
That was my career. Not working for Amazon, but printing books and that sort of thing.
No, fun. So anyway, so those once I get the paper copy, the paperback copy, I'll send that to that proofreader. So I'm waiting for those to come back. But my digital book is up for pre-order on Amazon.
Get it.
And Barnes and Noble and Kobo.
Yay.
So
Tina,
I can figure out how to get it on Apple because I don't have any Apple products. So
Tina, for our new listeners, tell them why they should get your book. I can tell them if you want me to go first.
No,
Tina's
go
book
it.
is amazingly conceptualized. Imagine there's no New Testament. What would the world be like? Well, that is the world that Angelica has grown up in, and she just feels the condemnation of the law all the time. So you need to follow her adventure to try to figure out what's going on and how she can just feel not so condemned all the time. How will she solve this problem? Go get the book.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
And I'm working on my newsletter, and hopefully it'll be sent out tomorrow. My first newsletter after a long time. So
That's
if you want
great.
to sign up for my newsletter and be able to be on my ARC team and get a free copy of my book in exchange for an honest review, you could sign up for my newsletter at ChristinaCatane.com.
Yes, and if you don't know, if you want to start your own newsletter and you don't know how to do it, tune in on Tuesdays at 8 on our Facebook. We go live and do a newsletter chat. And it'll be either me and Jen or Tina and Jen or some combination of 2 of 4 of us to help you figure out your newsletter issues. What's next for... Yep.
Are you going to sing it?
No.
Yeah. Aw.
It doesn't matter. It's already in my head. It's like already stuck there. So
Yes.
all right, Rhonda, you're last. What is your what's next?
Okay, my what's next is I also will be working on getting the workbook, the sprint book finished. Get that off my plate this week. Also, speaking of Tina, you're getting your proof copy. That I want to recommend to everybody to do that, because even if you look at my mom and I, Dee Dee Bowman, set up our second workbook for Cozy Mysteries on Amazon. And we flipped through all the pages on the PDF online, and it looked fine. But I thought, I'm just going to go ahead. It's only the second one, and order the proof copy. And I'm telling you what, I'm so glad I did, because there were a few pages that would have been horrible.
Wow.
So, and I'm not sure how we missed it on the PDF. So I'll need to go compare those again. But anyway, order your proof copies. They're only
Good
like
advice.
$2. Yeah.
Good advice.
Totally worth it. Jason says his what's next, trying to get some running done. I'm getting more excited for my story because of the new way of starting chapter 1. Also going to work on no matter what, sprinting at least once a day.
Yay.
Oh,
Good.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Good for you,
Tune
Jason.
in
You will
next-
see a difference.
Yeah, tune in next week, Jason, which I know you will, because we're going to get more into the nitty-gritty of sprinting.
Yes, we're going to talk about how you should sprint
Mhm.
specifically. So, all right, that I believe concludes this week's episode, unless anyone else has anything else they would like to say. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye, everyone.
Bye.